Alright, this is lesson 2, fractional exponents. Students will simplify exponent expressions with fractional exponents. So we're applying the same concepts as yesterday, looking at that math language with the exponents, but we're going to deal with some fractions. Fractions you should all be pretty solid at. If you're struggling through today because of the fractions, then you need to practice the fractions on your own, or come talk to me and I'll give you some practice, okay? But today we're dealing with fractions, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Alright, so today's steps are as follows. Simplify any exponents using exponential properties. 2. If an expression is left with a fractional exponent in the denominator, then multiply both numerator and denominator by the amount to make the fractional exponent a whole number. Which means if the bottom number or the denominator has a fractional exponent, then we don't like that, we need to get rid of it. We need to think what's going to make it the next whole number. And then 3, simplify it if possible. Okay? So watch me do numbers 1 and 2. Pencils down right now. Okay? So the first thing I'm noticing on number 1 is that we have two variables. We have x to the 3 halves over 2x squared. I know that this x, or the coefficient in front of the top number, is a 1. If I have x to the 3 halves at the top and x squared at the bottom, I know that 3 halves is like saying 1.5. So 1.5 is smaller than 2. So I'm going to cross out the numerator, and I'm going to take 3 halves from the bottom. So 2 minus 3 halves is actually just 1 half. Okay. My coefficients I can't simplify anymore, so now I have 1 over 2 x to the 1 half. Okay. All I did was apply a property we learned yesterday, or we reviewed yesterday. Okay. Now I don't like this fractional exponent in the denominator, so I need to ask myself, what's the next whole number after 1 half? It's 1, right? The next whole number from 1 half is 1. So what do I have to multiply x to the 1 half with to get 1? Well, I'd have to multiply it. I'd have to add 1 half to 1 half to get 1. So I'm going to multiply this by x to the 1 half on the denominator and the numerator. Okay? Because I know that x to the 1 half times x to the 1 half is equal to just 2x to the first, right? And then my numerator 1 times x to the 1 half is just x to the 1 half. Okay? And that's it. That's how you do number 1. Alright, let me explain it one more time what I just did, starting over. Okay? First thing I did is I looked at what kind of problem I had. I had a quotient problem, right? Quotient problem of exponential properties. So with x to the 3 halves, which I know 3 halves is like saying 1.5 over 2x squared. I know the coefficient in front of the top number is a 1. Okay, so 3 halves is smaller than 2, so I'm going to cross out the 3 halves. Okay, and I'm going to simplify, and x squared is like saying, minus 3 halves is like saying 1 half. Okay, so I just canceled that out. Now I'm going to rewrite this, simplifying it. We got 1 over 2x to the 1 half. Okay, in math we don't like leaving our exponents in our denominator as fractions, so we want to get rid of that. So the question I have to ask myself is, what's the next whole number after 1 half? The next whole number after 1 half is 1. What do I add to 1 half to get 1? I add 1 half again, so I'm going to multiply x to the 1 half in the denominator and x to the 1 half in the numerator. Okay? Then I simplify, multiplying across, and then we get our answer. Okay, that's number 1. Any questions on number 1? Okay, everyone's still watching right now. I'll give you time to talk. Number 2. Number 2, same thing as yesterday. I need to simplify first on our numerator and denominator, thinking about the inside and then moving to the whole problem. So in my numerator, I have a to the negative 2 times a to the 2/3. So this is a times, so I'm going to have to add negative 2 plus 2/3. It's like saying negative 2 over 1 plus 2/3, which I know that's going to be equal to negative 1 and 1/3, or I could just say it's equal to negative 4/3. Okay? Right? Yep. Okay. And then, so my new numerator is going to be a to the negative 4/3. our denominator, we have a power raised by a power. I'm going to have to multiply 3 halves times 1/3. We'll do a side problem. 3 halves times 1/3. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6, which is equal to 1/2. So our denominator is going to be a to the 1/2 power. Okay. I'm going to still simplify before I work out any fractional exponents. So we got a to the negative 4/3 over a to the 1/2. I'm dividing, so it's like saying negative 4/3 minus 1/2. I'm going to find a common denominator here. So it's going to be 6. It's going to be negative 8 sixths minus 3 sixths, which is equal to negative 11 sixths. Okay? So we have our answer is going to be a to the negative 11 sixths. If that's the case, then that's going to be really equal to 1 over a. And 11 sixths is like saying, or 11 sixths is like that. It's like saying 1 and 5/6. So what's the next whole number? It's going to be 2. So I need to add 1/6 to both. So I'm going to multiply a to the 1/6 times a to the 1/6. So we get a to the 1/6 over a squared. And that's your answer. Okay? Kind of complicated, right? I showed you step by step on what's happening here. So, any questions before you talk to your neighbor, before you even start writing? Any questions? Yes?
Why is it a squared on the bottom?
What's the next whole number after 11 sixths? So 11 sixths is like saying 1 and 5/6, right? What's the next whole number of 1 and 5/6? 2, right? So what do I need to add to 1 and 5/6 to get to 2? I have to add 1/6. That's a good question. Do you all understand his question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, good. So today is Tuesday. Let's have one. Our twos are talking first. Twos are talking to ones about number 1, and then ones will talk to the twos about number 2. Okay. Let's all talk. Twos are talking. Ready, set, go. Do number 3 for me, please. Number 3. Do one little step at a time. So coefficients first. There's a coefficient in front of this n. What's the coefficient in front of the n, everyone? 1. So let's multiply coefficients first. 1 times 2 is 2. Then we have n here. What's the imaginary exponent that's above the n here? 1. So it's like saying n to the first times n to the 5/4. So we're going to have to do a side problem. 1 plus 5/4. 5/4 is like saying 1 and 1/4. So it's like saying 1 plus 1 and 1/4, which is 2 and 1/4, which is 9/4, right? Did you get that? Okay, so how do I make 1 a fraction? What? Over 1. What's the common denominator for both 1 and 4? Good, so it's like saying 4 over 4 plus 5 over 4. What's 4 over 4 plus 5 over 4? 9 over 4, right? Do y'all see that? Okay, so why don't you, I'm going to go slow today, but, or write this down really quick in your notes, and then we're going to go do the next one. I'll give you 30 seconds. Yep. What? Try to share with your neighbor. Or write it down on your notes and then put your final answer on your board. Okay? Right. Do the work in your notes and then write the final answer on your board for me. Number 4. By yourselves. Ready, set, go. Just a quick tip. Work on the coefficients first, then combine the exponents together. So 4 times 3 is 12. Then we got b to the negative 3/4 times b to the 3/2. We have to add them, so we have to do a side problem. Negative 3/4 plus 3/2. Okay? Same sides add, different signs subtract. So we're going to find a common denominator. Negative 3/4 plus 6/4. I know 6/4 is bigger than 3/4, so I'm going to subtract and keep the bigger sign. So we got 3/4. Bigger sign is positive, so I know that's going to be b to the 3/4. Thankfully, there aren't any denominators with fractions in this one, so we're done. Okay? If you made a mistake, please fix it, and then we're going to move on. Does this make a little more sense now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Continuing on. Number 5. Work in bite size. So on this one, I'm going to start you off just to get you going here. On number 5, I would suggest that you multiply this first right here. So a squared times -2 is going to be a to the -4th. Okay? I'll start you off with that part. And the numerator you want to keep the same, bring the rest down. And then I would focus on the denominator. So at this step, I'd focus here. Okay? Go. I'll give you about a minute. It's not a trick. Okay, so when we have this -4/3, you could combine these two, right? That's totally fine. Here's another way you could have done it, is take this -4. And let's, we don't like the negative exponent, right? How do you get rid of a negative exponent? You put it on the opposite end of the fraction, right? So check this out. We could have just done a to the 5/3 times a to the 4th all over a to the 1/3, and then combine it. 5/3 plus 4 is like saying 5/3 plus 4 over 1. The common denominator is going to be 3, so it's going to be 5/3 plus 12/3, which is going to be 17/3, right? So then our numerator is going to be a to the 17/3 all over a to the 1/3. Which one's smaller? 1/3 or 17/3? 1/3. So let's take off 1/3 off the bottom. Take 1/3 off the top, which is just 16/3. So it's going to be, your answer is going to be a to the 16/3. We don't have anything in the denominator anymore, so that's it. We can't simplify 16/3. I think the only person who got it right was Blake. Good job, Blake! You're on the video. Like this video if you like Blake. Okay, cool. Keep going. There's nothing wrong. It wasn't stupid. I heard that. Brianna, like this video if you think Brianna is wrong and this video is not stupid. Okay, anyways. Last one, number 6. Ready, set, go. Okay, so on number 6, first thing I want to do is start simplifying each of my numerators and denominators separately. Just looking at my numerator up here, I'm noticing, hey, look at that, I have a power raised by a power, so it's going to be -4/3 times 1/2 is going to be -4 over 6. That's my new numerator exponent. Denominator, we can also raise a power by a power here, so it's got -1 times 1/2 is going to be -1/2. Okay, and then we have n to the 3/2 here. Okay, our numerator I can't simplify anymore. I could change it to be, or I could simplify it in the sense of making it a different fraction, but let's just wait on that for a moment. The denominator now we can combine by adding in 3/2 plus a -1/2 is just going to be 1, right? Because 3/2, if I do a side problem. It's like saying 2 over 2 or just 1 over 1, okay? So our denominator is now n over 1. To the first power, we got the numerator is n to the -4/6. But I could change that to be n to the -2/3. Okay. I don't like negative exponents, so I'm going to bring this to the bottom. So it's going to be 1 over n to the 2/3 times n to the first. I'm going to combine these, so it's going to be n to the 5/3. Okay. So, what's the next whole number after 5/3? 5/3 is like saying 1 and 2/3. What's the next whole number? 1. No. What's the next whole number after 1 and 2/3? 2, right? So what do I need to add to 5/3 to make it a whole number? 1/3. Is that what you meant over there? Yeah. Okay. So we got n to the 1/3 all over n squared. Okay. That's it. These are your hardest problems. Okay, if you could succeed through this, then you'll be good for the first test. The first test is hard because we have a lot of this stuff going on. All right? But that concludes this lesson.